Greetings and salutations, everybody. This is Swedish Jeff 2024, and I'd like to welcome you to the first installment of Behind the Card. And we're going to be profiling Warren Cromartie today. Here is his APA card. We can see that there, so it's not obscured. Warren Cromartie. This is Warren Livingston Cromartie, aka Crow. And what I want to do with this series here, Behind the Card, is I'm going to be spotlighting baseball players and football players who are not Hall of Famers, many of them who could be Hall of Famers, and guys that don't get the kind of recognition and the kind of publicity that many of the Hall of Famers and great players that we hear about a lot in the media, that these guys, in my opinion, don't get their due. And I want to be sure to recognize them. And what I'm going to start off with is Cromartie and talk about him and just give a little bit of details about his career. And then in the next episode, which I'd like to drop tomorrow, we're going to talk about a football player. I'm not going to mention his name yet, but you're going to really like his story. And I hope you enjoy all these stories here. So first, let's talk about Warren Cromartie in episode 1 of Behind the Card. So if you go to the Society for American Baseball Research, the SABR site here, this is an article that was written by Norm King. And it says here, if you had to guess, you would say that Warren Cromartie's lucky number was 3. After all, he played baseball, a game that has 3 strikes, 3 outs, and 3 bases. And he played in 3 countries, the United States, Canada, and Japan, where the people speak 3 languages, English, French, and Japanese. Warren Livingston Cromartie was born on September 29, 1953 in Miami, Florida, to Leroy and Marjorie Cromartie. Leroy was an all-around athlete who played second base for the Indianapolis Clowns of the Negro Leagues and barnstorming fame. Leroy also played quarterback at Florida A&M College, which became Florida A&M University in 1953. After graduating, he worked for the city of Miami for 25 years as a baseball, basketball, and tennis coach in the city's parks. He used to tell me about Josh Gibson and Satchel Paige, said Warren Cromartie. We were good friends with Buck O'Neil. Cromartie played baseball for Miami-Jackson Senior High School and was considered a good enough prospect to be drafted in 5 consecutive drafts, the last 3 in the first round. He spurned offers by the Chicago White Sox, 7th round, June 1971 draft, Minnesota Twins, 3rd round, January 1972, San Diego Padres, 1st round, June 1972, and Oakland Athletics, 1st round, January 1973. He didn't sign with any of those clubs because he wanted to play ball at Miami-Dade North Junior College, a high-caliber baseball factory that produced the likes of Mickey Rivers, Steve Carlton, and Bucky Dent. I wanted to go to junior college because that way I could sign after a year, Cromartie said. If I went to a 4-year school, I would have had to wait until I was 24 or a junior to sign. By the time I was 24 or 25, I wanted to be in the big leagues. Finally, after the 3rd, there's that lucky number again, consecutive draft in which Cromartie was chosen in the 1st round, Mel Didier, the Montreal Expos Director of Player Development, got Cromartie to sign with the team. Cromartie began his professional career in 1974 with the Quebec Carnivales of the Double-A Eastern League. The team included future Expos Larry Parrish and Ellis Valentine, but Cromartie wanted to play in Montreal. And when he saw the city for the first time, he was smitten. My first impression was I couldn't wait to get here, Cromartie said. We could see the outskirts of the city going towards the States for games. I always said to myself, man, that city sure looks bright. I can't wait to get over there. The wait wasn't very long, as the 20-year-old Cromartie was a September call-up on the strength of a .336 batting average, 13 home runs, 61 RBIs, and 30 stolen bases. The first big league pitcher he faced was the Pirates' Doc Ellis on September 6, 1974. He went 0 for 3 that night. Overall, he had 3 hits, all singles, and 17 at-bats for a .176 average during his brief stint. Cromartie wasn't ready to handle major league pitching, and the Expos sent him to AAA Memphis of the International League, where his numbers tailed off in 1975. 268 batting average, 3 home runs, 38 RBIs, only 5 stolen bases. But he bounced back the following year when the Expos moved their AAA affiliate to Denver. The 1976 Denver Bears were a juggernaut, compiling an 86-50 record and winning the American Association Championship. Cromartie contributed with a .337 batting average, 8 homers, 60 RBIs, and 27 stolen bases. Those numbers earned him a one-way ticket to the show in August. He played in 33 games and got 17 hits and 81 at-bats. The bright lights of Montreal were his. The 1976 Denver Bears would probably have swept a 7-game series from that year's Expos squad. This Canadian club was so bad, 55 wins and 107 losses, that team owner Charles Bronfman would have been driven to drink Canadian Club if he weren't also the owner of the company that made Seagram's Crown Royal. Bronfman's liver could take a break in 1977, as that year marked the beginning of a new era for the Expos. They moved from tiny Jerry Park to massive Olympic Stadium, and Cromartie was part of a wave of exciting young players who made the Expos a tough team to face over the next few years. Besides Cromartie, the nucleus of young players included future Hall of Famers Gary Carter and Andre Dawson, among others. Cromartie was still considered a rookie in 1977, and he had an excellent freshman campaign as the Expos left fielder. He hit .282 with 5 home runs, 50 RBIs, and 10 stolen bases, and was 10th in the league in hits with 175. His play certainly impressed his National League peers, as he came in second behind Dawson for the Sporting News Rookie of the Year, which was voted on by the players. As well, other teams noticed that despite all three being 23 years old, Cromartie, Dawson, and the howitzer-armed Ellis Valentine made up an outfield that had to be respected. The Sporting News even featured the trio on the cover of its August 20th, 1977 edition. As promising as all of these three were, Expos manager Dick Williams was not overly pleased with Cromartie's defensive skills and often replaced him for defensive purposes in the late innings during his rookie year. Cromartie worked hard to improve that aspect of his game in 1978 and ended up leading National League outfielders in assists with 24. He also hit a team-leading .297, which is better than it looks because he began the season 0 for 17. He worked overtime on improving his defense, Williams said, after he decided to let the left fielder play. He works hard at every aspect of the game. Cromartie got off to a hot start in 1979, parlaying an 18-game hitting streak into a .369 average for April. The streak ended at 19 on May 1st. Excuse me. He tied for second with Dave Winfield for National League Player of the Month behind the Reds' George Foster. The hitting streak was one of 3 team records he set that year. He also established new club highs with 46 doubles and 19 intentional walks. Overall, Cromartie hit .275, due in part to playing with a sore back, but he led all senior circuit left fielders in assists with 16 and putouts 344. Those fine defensive stats didn't prevent the Expos from making changes that affected where Cromartie played. Before the 1980 season, they traded left-handed pitcher Dan Schachter to the Detroit Tigers for speedy left fielder Ron LaFleur. Cromartie moved to first base, but the defensive skills he had acquired in left field did not. He led National League first baseman in errors with 14, but he compensated by hitting .288 and setting career highs with 14 home runs and 70 RBIs. The LaFleur era in Montreal lasted only 1 year, for though he stole 97 bases in 1980, manager Dick Williams found him uncontrollable and did not want the Expos to re-sign him. Oddly enough, LaFleur's departure did not lead to a return to left field for Cromartie in the strike-shortened 1981 season. Instead, he split time between first base and right field, while his original position went to rookie Tim Raines, who had played second base in the minors. Cromartie led the team with a career-high .304 average with 6 home runs and 42 RBIs, albeit in only 99 games, and had a career-high .370 on-base percentage. The strike created a split season and a unique playoff format. The team leading each division before the strike played the team leading the division when the season ended. In the National League East, this meant that the Phillies and Expos played each other in what was a precursor to the National League Division Series. In the fifth and final game of the series, the Expos led 3-0 with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth and Phillies second baseman Manny Trillo at bat. He hit a liner that Cromartie leaped up and caught to send the Expos off to the National League Championship Series against Los Angeles. Cromartie showed his delight at winning the series by borrowing a Canadian flag from a fan and waving it around Veterans Stadium. "I made the last out of the playoff game," Cromartie recalled. "I think holding up the Canadian flag after we won is kind of momentous for me." In the NLCS, the Expos lost to the eventual world champion Dodgers. Despite his series-winning catch against the Phillies, Cromartie's numbers weren't overly impressive in the playoffs. In 10 playoff games, he hit only .200 with no home runs and 3 RBIs. Expo fans used to sing the song "The Happy Wanderer" during games in the 1980s. That may have been in honor of Cromartie, who had to wander from position to position during his tenure in Montreal. He moved from left field to first base in 1980, then had to move from first base to right field when the Expos acquired first baseman Al Oliver in 1982. Although his batting average dropped 50 points from the previous season to .254, Cromartie tied his career high for home runs with 14 and drove in 62 runs. His season was a mixed bag from a defensive standpoint, for although he was 4th in the league among right fielders with 10 assists, he was also 2nd among right fielders in errors with 6. A personnel move involving Cromartie hindered the Expos' chances of making it to the postseason in 1982. "Almost everyone says the Expos have the best paper talent in the National League East Division," wrote Rick Hummel. "But one thing is missing. Clubhouse harmony, not one of the Expos' staples, wasn't improved after Warren Cromartie went to the bench after Joel Youngblood was acquired from the New York Mets." Another indication of Cromartie's popularity was the Crowbar, a confection along the lines of Reggie Jackson's Reggie Bar that was named sold at Olympic Stadium. The 1983 season also had some highs and lows for Cromartie. His average rebounded to .278, but he hit only 3 home runs and drove in only 43 runs. He also scored fewer runs with 37 than in any other season of his career. He again committed 6 errors, but this time it was only good enough for 3rd place among National League right fielders. Cromartie's adaptability in playing different positions on the field reflected his willingness to try new things in new places. He needed that flexibility in 1984, for he not only left the Expos as a free agent, but North America as well, when he signed with the Tokyo Yomiuri Giants of the Japan Central League, managed by the legendary Sadaharu Oh. "I've always been the only black on teams. I grew up with other nationalities," said Cromartie in explaining his adaptability. "That's the good thing about baseball. You could have 9 players, all different nationalities. Baseball has this way of bringing everything together and playing as a team. Part of my success was being able to adapt wherever I went." Of course, there were practical considerations to his signing with Yomiuri as well. He was about to sign with the San Francisco Giants when the Tokyo team came and offered him $2.5 million for 2 years, plus a bonus to play in the land of the rising sun. "I didn't go over there to eat a bunch of sushi," Cromartie quipped. He didn't go over there to eat crow either. As a gaijin, non-Japanese player, Cromartie had to adjust to baseball life in Japan, including the shock of finding out that there's a lot of sister kissing in Japanese baseball, as ties are part of the game there. He discovered that one time when everybody left the field when the score was tied after 9 innings, and he was told that a new inning didn't start after 9:45 because everyone had to take the train home. "I'm busting my ass out there for 9 innings, and you're going to tell me there's a tie?" he asked rhetorically. Cromartie played in Japan for 7 years, but he didn't get comfortable there until his 4th year. "I got off to a very slow start and started to catch on after about 6 months. I didn't really get comfortable in Japan until maybe my last 4 years," he said. Cromartie's comfort level reached its peak in 1989 when he not only won the league batting title with a .378 average and was voted the league MVP, but his Giants roared back to win the Japan series after being down 3 games to none. Overall, during his 7 years in Japan, Cromartie hit .321 with 171 home runs, 558 RBIs, and a .369 on-base percentage. On a personal level, his second son and third child, Cody, was born in Japan. Cody was given the middle name O as a sign of Warren's respect for his manager. After 7 years in Japan, Cromartie got the itch to return to North America in 1991. He wanted to play with Bo Jackson on the Kansas City Royals, and while he served as a pinch hitter and clubhouse presence for the team that season, the chance to play with Jackson never materialized. Jackson had suffered a serious hip injury playing football for the Oakland Raiders, that should actually be the Los Angeles Raiders, that caused the Royals to cut him before the 1991 season. The 38-year-old Cromartie hung up the spikes after batting .313 for the Royals in 69 games that year. Although his active career was over, he continued his association with baseball in many ways. Some of his endeavors were pretty conventional. For example, he wrote a book about his experiences in Japan titled Slugging It Out in Japan, started a baseball school in his hometown of Miami, and as of 2012 hosted a sports phone-in show, Call Me Homie, on a Miami radio station. Cromartie also does and has done things that typify the fun-loving spirit that made him popular with teammates and fans over the years. In 2005, he managed a team of Japanese players in the independent and now defunct Golden Baseball League, which had teams in the southwestern U.S. In 2007, he took part in a tag team wrestling match in Japan at the age of 53 for a charity called Hustle Aid. One of his opponents was named Tiger Meat Singh. Among Cromartie's undertakings in 2012 was his effort to bring Major League Baseball back to Montreal, a project that may not be as quixotic as it seems. He heads the Montreal Baseball Project, which hoped to revive interest in baseball in Montreal. He has a group in place working on the project and said the project has received a lot of encouragement. He organized a reunion of the 1981 Eastern Division champions in June 2012. 17 players from the team returned to Montreal and held several activities, including a dinner, a golf tournament, and a baseball clinic for youngsters. The reunion was successful, even though there was a tinge of sadness to it due to the death of Gary Carter the preceding February. All proceeds went to the Cedars Cancer Institute. Montreal is the largest city in North America without a professional baseball team. It's a travesty, said Cromartie. The city deserves a second chance. I'm ready for the journey, he said. It's a good journey. I feel very confident about it. And with that, I just want to say here that this is Cromartie's card again. We're going to show his cards. So if you look at Cromartie's career statistics here, and we're going to pull them up in just a second here, he has a lifetime batting average. This is Major League Baseball statistics here. Lifetime batting average of .281, .336 on-base percentage, .402 slugging percentage, 61 lifetime home runs, 391 RBIs, and he played in 1,107 games. So some of you might be wondering, why him? Why are you leading off with Cromartie? Well, I'm doing the 1981 season, and his numbers in 1981 are very good here. .304 batting average. I've got the card here, but I can also look at retro sheet. In 99 games, .304 average, .370 on base percentage. And I want to see baseball come back to Montreal too. I agree it's a travesty, and if I had my way, what I would do is I would expand Major League Baseball to 2 more teams. I would put Montreal back in the National League East. In fact, this is a nice segue here. We're going to conclude with this here. This is what I call my sensible realignment plan here. What I would do is I would have 4 divisions with 4 teams in each league. There'd be 16 teams in the National League, 16 teams in the American League. I would have the East, North, South, and West divisions. So here's how the realignment would go. American League East would be the Baltimore Orioles, Boston Red Sox, New York Yankees, and Toronto Blue Jays. American League North would be the Chicago White Sox, Cleveland Guardians, Detroit Tigers, Minnesota Twins. American League South would be the Houston Astros, the Kansas City Royals, the Texas Rangers, and welcome to the major leagues, the Nashville Stars. So I would put a team in Nashville. I really think they have an excellent chance of getting a team. So that would be the American League South: Astros, Rangers, Royals, and the Stars. The West would be the Los Angeles Angels, Seattle Mariners, and the Las Vegas, Oakland, Sacramento, California, Golden State, whatever Athletics, and the Colorado Rockies. Rockies would move to the American League. So that would be the new American League. 16 teams, 4 divisions. Now let's go to the National League. We have the new National League East, which looks a lot like the old National League East. You'd have the Montreal Expos, the New York Mets, the Philadelphia Phillies, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, come on, isn't that a cool National League East? Has that old school feel and in a new school environment, and you'd have Pittsburgh and Philadelphia reigniting that rivalry, that great rivalry that they had, which is now lost. So that's the National League East. The North: Chicago Cubs, Cincinnati Reds, Milwaukee Brewers, and the St. Louis Cardinals. The National League South: the Atlanta Braves, the Miami Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, and the Washington Nationals. And you'd have the 2 Florida teams in the same division. And last but not least, the National League West: the Arizona Diamondbacks, Los Angeles Dodgers, San Diego Padres, and the San Francisco Giants. That would be my, what I call, sensible realignment. Not radical. I don't think that we need to have the Yankees and the Mets in the same division. I think that's unnecessary. So, yes, I would love to see a team come back to Montreal, and I hope that you all have enjoyed this episode, and we're going to do another one tomorrow. It's going to be on a football player. Again, I'm not going to say who he is. This guy is someone that, sadly, a lot of people don't know much about, and I had to learn more about him. The more I learn about him, this guy was an incredible human being who left us way too soon. And I'll give you a hint: he does play in 1981, and he is in the Apple football set. And I actually just played him recently in a game, and it's a bittersweet story. But I hope you all enjoy it, and I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this installment. Please leave your comments, suggestions, questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. So long, everybody.